first speaker of 4 is Julie Klam. Julie is the author of the New York Times bestseller, You Had Me at Woof, Love at First Bark, see a theme here, Friend Keeping, Please Excuse My Daughter, The Stars in Our Eyes, and most recently, just out, the almost legendary Morris Sisters. Please welcome Julie to the stage. Thank you.
Hi. My grandmother's cousins, the Morris sisters, were very interesting women. So interesting that I decided to write a book about them. The story I'd heard about them was that they came to Ellis Island with their parents at the turn of the century and traveled across country where their father was going to be a Hollywood film director. In St. Louis, their mother went into labor and died in childbirth, unable to handle it. The dad put them in an orphanage. One sister, Marcella, who was very smart, got a job with J.P. Morgan and paid for all of her siblings to get out of the home and went on to have a big affair with J.P. Morgan, even decorating one of his New York City homes. She moved her sisters to New York City, where she became a huge Wall Street player, amassing millions of dollars and advising the White House on pork bellies and winter corn, which I think they're serving at the bar. One of the sisters, Selma, was asked by Golda Meir to come work with her in Israel. A third, Ruth, was a playwright whose work was stolen by NBC and Yip Harburg, who wrote Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And the fourth sister, Malvina, was a gifted painter who dealt with a physical disability. They all lived together on Christopher Street, never marrying or having children, and eventually retiring to Southampton and leaving their fortunes to Brandeis University. A very interesting story that started to fall apart when I went to the Morgan Library and started reading about J.P. Morgan. No mention of Marcella, and another small nagging detail. He died in Rome in 1913. At that time, Marcella was 12 years old, living in an orphanage in St. Louis. I went on to find that about 75% of the story I knew was untrue. It was a gut punch. I was clinging to 25% of a story being true, and there would now be a lot of reading between the lines. It wasn't easy. The Morris is the 56th most popular name in the country, and every time I found something, it was about a different Morris. I thought if I could just go back in time and talk to them, every question would be answered. And then it occurred to me, I could get a psychic medium to contact them and ask them everything. I wondered why I hadn't thought of that sooner. I asked my friend Patty, who knows a little bit about everything, if she had a recommendation for a psychic medium. And she told me this amazing story. A woman she knew called this psychic to get in touch with her husband who'd recently died. And the husband started talking through the medium right there on the phone while she was making the appointment. So I called, and the woman gave me an appointment. No one reached out from the netherworld while I was scheduling, unfortunately, but I felt certain that given this amount of notice, they would be there for our meeting. It was a phone session set for a Sunday night. I called, and she answered and said, "Okay, someone's here." I said, "Should I tell them your name? Should I tell you their names?" And she said, "No." She said to me, "Is there a Margaret?" And I said, "Marcella?" And she said, No. "Do you know a Margaret? Or maybe a Meg?" I said, "Yes, but she lives on 97th Street and is teaching tonight. I don't think this is her." "All right," she said. "I don't know what this is, but write down number 37. It will be important." Spoiler alert, 37 never came up at any point again. Someone else is here. Me. Ooh. I was listening to her talk into the phone. Oh, okay. They are happy you are writing about them. Me, oh, good. I hadn't thought about it before, but it was certainly better than them not being happy. I had seen Poltergeist 7. But they want to make sure you don't make them out to be a joke, like Grey Gardens. I said, that's fair. I had actually thought a lot about Grey Gardens because the sisters chain smoked and were quirky, and they lived out in the Hamptons. But now I would not think of them that way. And I kind of loved how that was the first thing they said, don't make us look silly. The psychic said, hold on. She said, is there a Peggy? I said, no, Ruth? This is the kind of thing I found with psychics. They say Peggy, you say Ruth, and they say sure. And you're like, wow, they got that right. So Peggy Ruth. Well, she was saying they loved each other very much and always took good care of each other. And also, they feel very sad that Carnegie Deli is closed. Apparently, you don't stop missing lean corned beef just because you die. We still had a little time, so I asked direct questions. What company did Marcella work for? Who did Ruth marry for less than 2 months? Did Selma talk about going to Israel with Golda Meir? Was Malvina's art ever displayed in a gallery? She said, I'm sorry, I'm not getting any of that. I think at this point I put my pencil down or jammed it into my throat. I had a brand new notebook that I was going to fill with addresses, names, dates, and all I had written was sad Carnegie Deli. The psychic said, it's not like a telephone that you can just reach a person on. It's a little more complicated than that. Well, clearly I knew that, or I would have called them myself to see which delis they were sad to see close. She said, is there anyone else you want me to contact? I said, no, I don't think so. I probably should have asked if Abraham Lincoln was there or something. She said, well, I realize this was disappointing, but the spirit world is in a very bad way right now. They're working on a lot of things. So this was the end of October of 2016. And suddenly, she said, things are about to get very, very bad. And all of a sudden, I was like, F my book. Is she saying Trump is going to win? I said, are you saying Trump is going to win? She sighed and said, either one of them winning would be terrible. I said, no, it wouldn't. She said, you need to take really good care of yourself through this time. Make sure you eat well, exercise, drink a lot of water. I said, who do you want to win for president? And she said, well, I really like that Dr. Jill Stein. I was like, damn, no wonder my relatives weren't going to talk to you. She wasn't wrong. I mean, she was wrong about Jill Stein, but not about the terribleness. The next 4 years were terrible. And I did find out, though, a lot about the Morris sisters in a more conventional way. My book came out and was fine. But most importantly, I found a great new deli in the 30s that delivers. And if I'm honest, I always thought Carnegie Deli was a bit overrated.